President Trump vowing big tariffs on computer chips unless companies manufacture them in the United States.
When the president will impose new tariffs on chips and semiconductors. The White House has launched multiple investigations into the imports of computer chips.
We'll be putting a tariff on of approximately 100% on chips and semiconductors. But if you're building in the United States of America, there's no charge.
Global markets are shaking under the weight of a new economic storm. The United States has launched another round of aggressive tariffs against China, this time targeting the core industries that power the modern world. Signed by Donald Trump himself, the policy hits critical technologies including semiconductors, advanced machinery, and precision manufacturing, the foundation of today's global supply chains. Washington claims it's a strategic move to pressure Beijing, but the consequences are already spilling far beyond politics. For the technology world, this may be the beginning of a long era of disruption. And caught in the middle of this geopolitical collision stands NVIDIA, the company that ignited the global AI revolution. How will this trade war shape the future of artificial intelligence? And who will pay the ultimate price? Let's find out. Once seen as the unstoppable force behind the AI boom, NVIDIA now faces unprecedented pressure as the U.S.-China trade conflict intensifies. According to the Wall Street Journal, more than 40% of NVIDIA's production network still depends on Chinese contractors, while nearly one-third of its components are assembled in Asian hubs tied to Chinese infrastructure. NVIDIA's entire manufacturing chain, from raw silicon to advanced chip packaging, has been built across Asia for decades. Now, that system is being torn apart by tariffs. Inside NVIDIA's headquarters in Santa Clara, urgent closed-door negotiations have been held with U.S. Commerce Department officials and White House advisors. Sources told Bloomberg that NVIDIA executives warned the U.S. government, if tariffs keep rising, producing next-generation GPUs may no longer be economically viable. NVIDIA's business is not simple consumer electronics. It's a global engineering ecosystem, dependent on specialized partners, chip fabricators, and high-precision suppliers. Even its most advanced AI chips, the Hopper and Blackwell architectures, are built by TSMC in Taiwan, using materials and tools sourced from China. Any shock to this chain causes instant global delays. The Financial Times reports that NVIDIA is now scrambling to shift emergency production to South Korea and Malaysia. But experts warn, moving chip supply chains isn't like moving a factory. It's a multi-year rebuild involving supply logistics, facility certification, and thousands of components that must be recalibrated. Analysts at Goldman Sachs predict that NVIDIA's supply could fall sharply before the end of this quarter as tariffs make Asian production unprofitable. NVIDIA is now trapped between two brutal choices. Stay in China and watch profits collapse under tariffs, relocate production, and lose years of development time to supply delays in the AI industry. Even a 3-month delay could cost billions of dollars in contracts with Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. According to Reuters, NVIDIA has already warned the White House that U.S. tariffs could cause a global shortage of high-performance AI processors, slowing innovation in both commercial AI and national security systems. In other words, the U.S. may end up crippling its own AI dominance. Meanwhile, Beijing is preparing to strike back. China is planning retaliatory restrictions on key semiconductor materials, including rare earth minerals vital for chip manufacturing. The South China Morning Post reports that China may suspend exports of high-purity gallium and germanium, materials essential to NVIDIA's most advanced GPUs. Even a short disruption could freeze production worldwide. China's Ministry of Commerce has already issued a warning, saying Washington's tariff war threatens the stability of the entire global tech ecosystem, and Beijing will respond firmly and symmetrically. If this trade confrontation continues to escalate, the consequences will go far beyond NVIDIA, and the world's race for artificial intelligence could be dragged into a historic technological Cold War. NVIDIA's processors are the beating heart of the global AI race. They power the supercomputing centers of OpenAI, Anthropic, xAI, Meta, and countless startups building the next generation of artificial intelligence. If chip supply slows down, the shock will hit every corner of the AI world. Innovation will stall, research will freeze, and progress could be pushed back by years. And here lies the irony. America may be sabotaging its own technological future. Donald Trump has repeatedly called for high-tech manufacturing to return to American soil, but semiconductors are not built with political slogans. Building a chip fabrication plant like TSMC takes 5 years or more, billions of dollars, and engineering talent that is in critically short supply. Even if NVIDIA wanted to move production back to the United States, the facilities simply do not exist yet. According to Nikkei Asia, NVIDIA is already being forced into extreme decisions, cutting shipments of its H100 and Blackwell B200 chips just to stabilize supply. That move has triggered an industry-wide chain reaction. Microsoft and Amazon have both issued warnings of cloud service disruptions, while analysts on CNBC predict global AI development could be delayed by at least a full year. But while NVIDIA struggles, China is accelerating. Chinese giants like Huawei, BYD, and Tencent are rushing to build homegrown AI chips capable of replacing NVIDIA hardware. Backed by massive state funding, Beijing is using this crisis as a historic chance to break free from U.S. technology once and for all. Washington is alarmed. Experts at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, warn that if this conflict continues, the world could enter a phase of complete technological separation, a split that may cost the U.S. its dominance in critical markets. Inside NVIDIA, anxiety is rising fast. Executives fear that the political war between Washington and Beijing could erase decades of innovation. One senior insider told The Verge that NVIDIA has become a hostage of government policy, calling this conflict a war for control of the world's technological future. Inside the company's engineering divisions, the mood is tense. Teams are working around the clock to protect production lines and contain financial losses. But major internal projects, future chip architectures, AI accelerators, and next-gen GPU platforms are now on hold. Engineers whisper about a looming moment, the point of no return. If the tariff pressure continues, NVIDIA's development cycle might suffer irreversible damage. Meanwhile, Beijing's response is gaining speed. Chinese universities and tech labs have launched fast-track chip research programs, aiming to surpass U.S. performance levels. Analysts at Canalys Research predict that within 18 to 24 months, China could achieve full AI chip independence, a breakthrough that would be a massive blow to U.S. influence. The consequences go far beyond corporate profits. Entire production lines could shut down. AI breakthroughs could be delayed by years. Sectors like automation, healthcare, cybersecurity, and even space technology could suffer catastrophic setbacks. For decades, NVIDIA symbolized American technological leadership, a company that turned gaming chips into the engines of artificial intelligence. But now, that symbol stands at a dangerous crossroads. Every new tariff, every retaliation, and every delay in negotiations is pushing the world closer to a technological split. If this divide becomes permanent, the world could fracture into two rival AI systems, one led by the U.S. and its allies, the other by China and its partners. That fracture would not only reshape trade, it would redefine the global future of innovation. And now, the world waits. NVIDIA stands in the eye of the storm, forced to choose whether to adapt, relocate, or risk everything and wait for diplomacy to intervene. But time is running out. Every delay deepens uncertainty across the global AI industry, and every escalation pushes the world closer to a technological fracture. If this tariff war continues down its current path, its consequences will reach far beyond a single company. It will shape how nations compete, how industries survive, and how technology evolves in the decades to come. And now, a dramatic twist, China appears to be gaining the upper hand in the very trade war the United States began. In late September, Washington intensified restrictions on advanced semiconductors bound for China, expanding blacklists and tightening access to chip-making equipment. But Beijing responded with a move that shocked global markets. Within days, China announced new export licensing rules targeting rare earth minerals, resources essential to producing everything from smartphones and electric vehicles to missiles and supercomputers. For the first time, China had transformed its grip over global mineral supplies into a weapon of direct economic influence. Dean Baker, a former Trump administration official, described it bluntly. China is asserting the power to decide who gets access to the modern economy. The White House fired back. Donald Trump called China's actions a moral disgrace, warning that more tariffs and sanctions may be coming, potentially triggering a full-scale trade embargo between the world's two largest economies. Diplomats are now racing to prevent a collapse in relations, ahead of a scheduled Trump-Xi summit in South Korea, but negotiations are hanging by a thread. Publicly, both leaders speak of dialogue and resolution. But behind the scenes, the reality is undeniable. Economic warfare has entered a new era. For decades, China worked to dominate advanced industries, while the U.S. used export controls to protect its technological edge. Now Beijing is responding with precision retaliation, using its strategic control over essential materials to challenge U.S. influence. Economic pressure has become a shared weapon, capable of reshaping alliances worldwide. And there is a second truth, one far more unsettling. No peace deal is coming. The U.S.-China rivalry has surpassed trade disputes. It is now a global contest of ambition, ideology, and power. History tells us such rivalries do not end with a handshake. Britain and Germany held peace talks before World War I. They still went to war, the U.S. and the Soviet Union signed treaties in the 1970s. The Cold War still intensified. Great powers do not compromise, they compete. And this time, the battleground is technology. The United States spent years trying to integrate China into the global economy, but that era is over. Trump's first tariff struck Chinese exports. Then came the campaign against Huawei, blocking Beijing from controlling 5G networks. In 2022, the Biden administration expanded the tech blockade, cutting China off from advanced chips and the machines needed to build them. That strategy, economic containment, was meant to slow China's technological rise. Instead, it triggered a counter-strategy. China responded by crafting its own system of economic retaliation. The rare earth mineral restrictions announced this year were not a sudden decision. They were years in the making. Beijing built a legal framework to weaponize its control over global resources, just as it once did against Japan in 2010. What we are witnessing now is the first chapter of a new era, an era where China wields economic power with military precision, an era where Beijing uses technology, supply chains, and energy resources not just for profit, but for global leverage. And, like its expanding military presence in the South China Sea, China's grip over critical technology now threatens to redraw the global balance of power. The world now stands at a crossroads. Will it remain connected by shared progress or be divided by economic warfare?